are we ready to talk about building, retrofitting, or buying your next house? How many of you own a house? Raise your hand. Okay, good, you're in the right room. Good, just checking. All right, interesting. And you might be asking too, like, why are there fewer people here this month? What you need to know is that every month that these seminars go on, not everybody in the room owns a house. And not everyone in the room wants to talk about this subject either. So there are people that aren't here today, not because of Thanksgiving, that can be part of it, but because they go, I'm not talking about this. So good job for being here. And
well, not talking about things is always a really effective way to be successful.
It is, right, yeah, just putting your head in the sand and ignoring it, that works out really well at my house for sure. Yeah, for about a month.
Yeah.
And then it's terrible. Okay. So Becky, I wanted to walk people through something fun, just to kind of give you perspective about making decisions like this, about where you're going to live, whether you're going to stay put, whether you're going to move, if you're going to move where. I thought it would be fun just to do a little retrospective. So these are dorm rooms, presumably from more than a decade ago. Right?
Although I will say, having two kids at OSU right now, that is still what those dorm rooms look like. Yeah. So.
Okay, very good. Well, because this is what I pulled up from previous years. This is more what is coming up currently. Now, these are obviously decorator pictures, right? This is more a little more trendy for today's dorm rooms. They're still small, but man, they are fancy. And then some of you may remember these. How many of you lived in one of these types of rooms at some point in your life? Yeah, all right. So then people then moved out of the family home into either college or into maybe military life, or maybe they started their family and they bought their own first home. And oftentimes they looked like these, right? We still have some of these out there. Some of you may still live in one about this size. But here in Oklahoma, those are representative of some of the first family homes. And then as time went on, the 50s and 60s brought us brick homes, usually more bedrooms, usually garages added on, things like that. Some of you may have homes that look very similar to those. We sold many
of those, yeah.
Like that. And then obviously people's families began to grow. Those of you in the baby boomer generation may have grown up in a house like this, because you needed more space, and you may still live in one of those, or you may have inherited one of those, or you may have built one of those, I don't know. And then you may have moved on into something a little more suburban, newer, 3-car garage now. You'll notice that we went from 0 garage to 1 carport to maybe a 1-car garage to now we're up to 3-car garages in many cases in newer homes. That's very desirable. And then, obviously, in some of our older neighborhoods, the more historic homes, we have bigger yards. We have people moved into these neighborhoods for the trees and be closer to downtown. And then, obviously, some of you did very well for yourselves, and you moved into much larger homes and into much more space than maybe what you needed, or maybe the family needed it at some point, but it was big. Some of them may be even as big, oops. So how many of you live in a house like that one? Darn,
I know, shoot.
Okay.
Well, let's just close it up.
Because I was gonna ask why we move into it. But, so there are people here in the area that live in homes like that. I don't happen to have friends like that.
I don't want to clean that.
I wouldn't want a house that big, but then this picture I brought up, because a lot of people are yard people. I know I was for many years. And so with those homes, whichever home you had, it may have also had some beautiful lush landscaping, lots of flower beds, lots of water features, maybe a pool here and there, that kind of thing. And so we all basically developed our home to be our own and to be very unique, and whatever we could afford, and we did the best that we could with it. And this is Mustang, Oklahoma, Cloud Blanchard, lots of homes like that, beautiful homes with water in the back on acreage. Anybody live on an acreage? Raise your hand. Yeah, we got some folks on the acreages.
Yeah, and I think it's, whatever that dream home for you was at that point in your life. Was that having lots of land, or was that having a giant house to entertain in? It's definitely, your home is such indicative of what your goals were at that time.
And it's who you are,
Mhm.
right? When
Mhm.
people say, I'm a land person,
Mhm.
or I'm a country person,
Yeah.
or I'm a city person,
Mhm.
or, I'm a home person. It's an identity thing to a certain degree. Yeah. Now, then there becomes a point, and this is why you're here today, is that people begin to talk about simplifying everything. And Becky and I, our careers are built around people simplifying everything, right? People tend to come to us and say, I'm tired of maintaining a house, or maybe not the house, but the land, or maybe I can't physically anymore do it the way I would like to be able to do it. And so I need to simplify things. And that's where our first question is usually, well, where do you see yourself next? Right? Where do you see yourself next? And some people have a plan. They already know where they see themselves next. Other people, surprisingly to us, a lot of times, we are the first phone call they make, which is great. We love being that first phone call. And they say, I don't know, what are my choices? And that's what we're really here to talk about today, right? Yeah. Because you can stay put, obviously, we'll talk about that too. But once people start thinking about what they might need to do to stay put, we're going to cover a few of those things. You have to be in the question, does it make sense to do that? And only you can decide that. We really can decide that for you.
Yeah, because just like now and just like in previous decades of your life, your home is going to continue to define you and define what you want to do and define what your wants and desires and what you want your life to look like. So I think the important thing is that it's a very personal decision. And so we're going to explore lots of those today. But ultimately, you have to ask yourself, what do I want my life to look like? And because you're having the conversation, because you're here listening and learning, then I believe, even just preparing for this, there's so many options and I'm excited to talk to David here in a minute because there's options that I didn't know about. And listen, I've been selling houses for a minute.
Yeah.
So.
More than a minute.
More than a minute.
I know, that's a saying. But it just seems weird. Yeah. You got teenagers. I've got to remember you.
I do.
Do you say 6, 7?
Only when I want to make him mad.
What does that even mean?
It means kind of or so. Yeah, but if you really are like feeling a lack of eye rolling in your life, then you can just find a teenager and say 6, 7, and then you will for sure get an eye roll. It's 100% effective.
Tip of the day: how to invoke an eye roll. I like it. All right. So Thanksgiving, by the way, I have to digress. So you have teenagers. I still have littles, right?
Yes.
My grandkids are 13, 8, 5, and 2. And we don't do eye rolls yet, except Layla does, but she does them privately because she knows she gets in trouble at 13. Like Kate, the 3-year-old, was the showstopper this year. Caleb lets her in. She comes in. We didn't know she was there yet. And all of a sudden, this little child appears in the living room out of nowhere. And she goes, look at my new boots. And we all stopped what we were doing. And we're like, where did she come from? And she had all these new boots and she was beautiful and amazing. And then I looked over at my 13-year-old granddaughter and I went, see how cute you were? And I got the eye roll.
Yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah, so fun. All right, moving on. I know you didn't come here today to hear about my grade. All right. So staying put. On your handout that you have, white piece of paper, you guys have a handout. And on that handout, it has a little mind map, a little flow chart of some decision-making things that come up. And people don't really think about all of the decisions that are made in this process. And we think about it because we have to walk people through those decisions. But as you're in the decision-making process, you aren't thinking about, I have to make this decision, and this decision, this decision. So we wanted to make it visual for you. And so the first decision that people make usually is, am I going to stay where I am for the foreseeable future, or what some people say to us is, this is my forever home. They either buy it, build it, or they're in it already, and this is my forever home. And I laugh about that because when I did my doctorate work, I interviewed many people who had moved into retirement communities after 75. And I asked them to tell their story. And part of their story, almost every single couple that I interviewed said, we thought we were living in our forever home. And one gentleman even said, we're in our 4th forever home right now. He said, I had a forever home, you're in your 3rd, good for you. She was in her forever home, our spouses passed away, we met each other, we sold those homes and bought our forever home. And then we moved out of that forever home into another forever home, and now here we are at this retirement community. And I said, well, is this your forever home? And he said, I really don't think I should say yes to that. Right? It was like he had a moment of thought. Like, I'm not really sure how I feel about that question, but it was worth asking the question. So the question is, are you going to stay put or relocate, and how do I make that decision? If you're going to stay put, you have a question of, do I or will I remodel this house to make it work for me long term? Or will I make some adjustments? We call those retrofits, right? Like not really remodeling, just some minor renovations, if you will, retrofitting some certain things. And then we'll talk about the relocate thing. So I have a few pictures here that I want to just kind of show that are so simple that people fail to recognize early enough. And when we go to look at someone's home to sell it, they've often had a mobility issue, right?
Yeah.
Fall.
Yeah.
Or fear of falling.
Mm-hmm.
That could be the other issue. Like, I don't want to fall, so I need to make some changes earlier so I don't fall. But these railings, guys, are just, those are really pretty on a house. And if you have railings on your porch, that's something you can really easily and not very expensively do. And I know Becky's team has fantastic contractors, and then we've had some fantastic contractors we've recommended that can do that for you affordably. And then here's a newer home, and I pulled this one up because I thought, if you're building a home and you're building it with steps, which by the way, we're going to talk about, and Eddie's going to tell you not to do that. I don't blame. So, but the step thing, if not for you, you may say to yourself, I never go in and out the front door. I just go out through the garage. Mm-hmm. Well, who comes in your front door? Other people. Other people. So put a railing there. I highly recommend putting a railing there. And then I pulled this up because if you live in a home that has a slight grade, and maybe it has a step, you can easily retrofit that and create a little bit of a slope. Now, if you have too much of a grade, you don't want that, because have you ever seen somebody rolling a walker down a steep grade, right? That's never a good thing, right?
No, we need to save the rights for Disney World, please.
Yes, please, right? Yeah. So there's definitely some things, but if you're building a house, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more, those kind of things can be easily done when you build. It's harder to do after the house.
Well, and I don't know if you remember, we had, and I'm blanking on the business name, but the woman that was talking about retrofitting a couple of months ago, and she was talking about how there's a lot of people who come in and do like the cheap ramps, and they're really, really not safe. So if you have the opportunity to do it during the building process and do it correctly, that's definitely recommended.
100%. Yeah. So here's another example, a couple of other examples of ramps, just as an idea. So this one on the left is more of a new construction, or, it's got the curvature to it. Well, if you're somebody that's in a scooter, that may be a little bit harder to navigate or if you're in a wheelchair especially, than if you're walking that. The other one, obviously this person maybe opted to age in place, and you see they have the stairs, but they do the ramp. And I love the fact that there's handrails there, right? And it's not just a ramp, it's got handrails, because how many of you have ever been walking on something that's like a little bridge or a little something, and you get wobbly, and it's like, oh Lord, if there's no handrail, guess where you're gonna end up, right? Here in this picture, you're gonna end up in the grass.
Yeah.
Right? And, and for those nights that you come home, you've had a little too much wine, those rails are perfect, right? All right, so there's a bathroom. Now, you may think to yourself, well, that's overkill.
I thought that when I saw that. When I was looking, I was like, my stars.
Yeah. So lots of questions come up for me on this, right? One is, if you look on let's see, on your side, it's gonna be on the left side, the top one, that is not a grab bar. That is a towel bar. See the difference?
It will not hold you.
It will not hold someone who is falling and grabs a hold, not an adult anyway, for sure. So there are really only 4 grab bars there. best I can tell. Those other two appear to be more power active. That one at the bottom could be a grab bar. Depending on if it's actually secured with some sort of board behind the wall there, right? It's not just in the sheetrock. So, but the thing about that is if you're sitting in the tub and soaking, you need one rail to be able to get up, right? A lower rail. If you're standing in the tub and you're looking for stability and you want something to keep you while you're standing, maybe, ladies, you get this. If you're shaving your legs and you're standing in the shower, right? And you're trying to do this whole shaving the leg thing, standing up, right? That is one risky move, yeah? Right? It's a risky move. You better be doing Pilates if you're gonna do that. It's not easy, you guys. You guys get to stand in the mirror and just stand two-legged like that. Having a bar there at waist height is great to have, and then those other two are getting in and out of the tub, right? Yeah. So that's a whole different ballgame. So I don't think it's overkill. The question always is, well, is it aesthetically pleasing? And my response to that is, who cares? Right?
Right.
Like, I would rather have you,
I would personally rather have that than to have to call for help in that situation.
right, if you call the fire department and you go, but isn't my bathroom pretty? the fire
He does not care.
guys going,
He does
get
not
some
care.
grass on, lady. Yeah. So here's an example of a bathroom that I would love to see more of if people were gonna, because if you have a wheelchair or someone who's mobility challenged and they need to be able to get up to the sink, if you've got cabinets underneath that sink, it's very difficult to do. So this is great, this is just a counter, it looks more like a commercial build type bathroom. And then you got in the shower, you see that there's a handheld shower wand that someone can use. And then you also have the tub where you can sit on the tub and then transfer your legs around into the tub. So it's got a little spot there. That, obviously that's a remodel, that's not just a retrofit. And then this bathroom, a little more modest bathroom, but obviously someone has taken out a wall here, probably taken out a bathtub and put in a roll-in or walk-in shower with a bench in it that someone can sit. I think there's a handheld wand. I cropped that out of the picture because I was trying to make it bigger. But you can see here where this is a very, I wouldn't say easy, but it is a very doable modification in a lot of bathrooms, regardless of the age of the home.
I will also say on this one thing that I like about this one, if someone was going to remodel to something like this, is the tile on the wall and making it a true wet area is going to make, maybe if you need help showering, things like that, it's just going to make it a little bit easier to traverse.
Yeah, 100%. And then same way with this one, right? So you got this one, I love this shower. I was like, oh my gosh, I want this shower, right? I had a shower envy when I saw this one. So obviously you can roll in or walk into it, large space, so if you needed help or, you know, you just want to have a party in the shower, there you go, right? So, but the counter is also important too, right? So you can see that counter, someone can pull up to with a walker or wheelchair or scooter. And it's just a little different than what you would see in an everyday house that's being built for someone who isn't mobility challenged. Okay, we see these a lot. I want to ask you your advice and your observation on this. So when you go into a house that has stairs and someone has a chairlift in it, the question I always seem to get is, should I take the chairlift out to sell the house, or should I leave the chairlift in because somebody might want it? What do you usually say?
So my first question is, are you going to be living in your house while it's on the market? Because if you're using that every day, then obviously we're going to need to leave it there, right? There's safety from that aspect. I like them taken down and repaired where you cannot see that they've been there, because there are several things, and we're going to go into this a little bit later too, but there are several things about your home that make it good for you, but that other people are not going to care about the vast majority. And while yes, some people may say that's nice, they're certainly not going to miss it if it's not there. So it's like what we've talked about in the past, like taking your home to vanilla. We've talked about that at some other seminars where we want your house to be vanilla, where they can come in and do whatever and make it a non-issue. Also, those tear up the carpet under them. A lot of times, even if they're done well, there's the carpet wears underneath. And so sometimes taking that out also means replacing carpet on your stairs. So get one if it improves your life, but know that there's going to be some expense when you take it down to take your house back to normal.
By the way, you know who loves to ride on those if they're in the house? The purchasers. You like to avoid that.
Yes, yeah, because they're not the most gentle of humans, generally speaking.
People don't monitor their children.
That's true. That's a whole nother seminar.
That's a whole nother seminar. Okay, this one, oh my goodness, I'm living this one right now with my family. So this is a sunken living room. How many of you have a sunken living room? By show of hands, anybody?
Oh.
Shannon does. Yeah,
Okay.
Sunken living rooms, very popular in the 70s and 80s
We're not sure why.
and 60s really. Yeah.
It's a choice.
Yeah. So those can be obviously leveled. There's a lot of things that can be done. It's not cheap to do, and it should never be done on the cheap. If you're going to do it right, because there's lots of reasons for that we don't need to get into. But you can see here that little lip, right? That little step down. Here's another picture. This is a lake house. This one's got a beautiful view. And guess what people are looking at when they walk into that living room? The view. What are they not looking at? The steps. How many people do a face plant because they were looking at the beautiful view and they didn't catch the step and they ended up breaking a hip or twisting an ankle? Danielle, how's that feel?
I can tell you too, these, I've seen people put the caution tape on theirs, and those are beautiful wood floors. And I mean, like it will mess up your wood floors. I have to tell you a funny story. Can I tell a funny story?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I'm a real estate agent. I don't only sell houses to people who have mobility issues. So I had a young family that I was showing houses to not too long ago. And we walk in the house and I said, oh, watch your step down. And then we walk in another room and I said, oh, you need to be mindful because this doorway is pretty tight. We went in the backyard and I said, oh, there's lots of baby trees back here. Be careful. And at one point this man is probably, I don't know, 45.
Sure.
And he looks at me and he's like, I'm not a walrus. And I was like, I'm sorry, it's habit. I can't help it. I had pointed out everything in the whole house and he thought I was bananas. But I do see those and it makes me nervous.
It makes me nervous too. And here's the sad reality of this is they're not a problem until they're a problem.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people can get away with having a house like this for many, many years. My aunt and uncle, I thought I had one more. My aunt and uncle have a house with a sunken living room. And when you walk into their front entry, it's one level, there's no steps, there's a little lift at the door. Then you go into the formal living and a formal dining, and there's no step down. But you go into the main living, and there's a step down. And then you go out of there in that door, there's a step up, and into the hall where all the bedrooms are, is a step up. So he cannot navigate that house without taking a step down or up to get to his bedroom or in and out of his bedroom. My uncle was diagnosed with Parkinson's several years back, and his mobility now is very difficult. He shuffles when he walks, but he's still very capable and he still gets around. But that's going to get harder over time. And when my aunt just recently had knee surgery a few years ago, and then now she just had hip replacement surgery, so she's using a walker, and she's having to navigate up and down, up and down, up and down. And so we were having this conversation, and I said, well, Chris pointed out, I believe, that you can, from the dining room or the formal living room, a hole could be cut to get to the hallway instead of having to raise that floor. Mm-hmm. So they could cut a doorway in the formal living room, which would allow my uncle to navigate from his bedroom down the hallway into the formal living, through the formal dining, into the kitchen, without having to go up and down the step, and they could turn that formal living into the TV room instead of using the sunken room.
It's a long way to go for your morning cup of coffee, though.
It is a long way. It's a big house.
Yeah.
And he kind of sat there, and he's like, okay, yeah, we could do that. And I said, or you could raise the floor in here. And then we talked about all the reasons why that was disastrous too, because they have doorways in there, they have a fireplace in there, there's all kinds of reasons, right? It's a very expensive, difficult remodel for his house. So anyway, point being, he's one fall away from having to use some sort of assistance with getting around. And I've seen that progressively. And so I'm going to say to people in the room that my research, and I've done exhaustive research on this, is two things. Either fix the problem, right? Create one level for yourself, or get yourself to the gym. Seriously. Physical therapy and get to the gym, because you have got to make sure that your mobility doesn't decline at all costs, because that is going to decide for you whether you can stay in that house or not stay in that house, right? And not even, people say, oh, it'll be fine, until it's not. And that the simple living room is the biggest challenge I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you've made some decisions. Like, you've looked at your house, and we didn't cover all of them, so let's just talk about a few of them before we go there. So let's talk about a few of these. So wider doorways, Becky. How many of these houses do you go in that you can barely get through the doorway yourself, much less with a walk?
Yeah, the doorways, and then also, how many of you guys, if your house was built in like the 50s or 60s, the shower, like to get in the shower is so tight. Which is great for like, weight control, because if you can't get in the shower, then you should eat a salad. But I would say that the shower doors being really tight are good, or is a big one, and it's a problem. And then the smaller doorways for sure, especially for those important. So when people are retrofitting those, they're not doing the whole house because that's getting expensive. So they'll do bathrooms, bedrooms, kitchen, things like that.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that I see people put in that are not on the slides, so the doorways, walk-in tubs. So they make those tubs, you see them on advertisements all the time. So you may have a walk-in tub that has a little door that you can get in, it fills up. So those have pros and cons, right? So we wanted to talk a little bit about some costs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's assume you buy one of those, you put it in, and you decide to sell your house at some point, and that is not going to be something that most home buyers are going to be excited about having.
Right. So being the Truth series, I hope it's okay if we tell you the truth, because I have a lot of conversations with people in their home, and they're like, I put this tub in, it was X dollars, I'm so proud of it, we got the top of the line, whatever. And unfortunately, that's a sunk cost. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Because the next buyer is going to possibly pick another home because they're not going to have to renovate the bathroom. So you may have put yourself in a situation that will come in as the bridesmaid several times, so to speak, because it's a great house, it's beautiful, you've done great things to it, but that's work. And people right now, listen, guys, home buyers in their 30s and 40s, they are not smart like y'all were when you were buying your first house. They do not know how to fix anything. They don't know how to renovate anything. I'm not kidding. They don't know how to use a screwdriver half the time.
Or want to.
And so it's not something like, well, I'll just let someone else do that. They will choose not to. So be aware that that's going to be an issue.
And the sunk cost thing, I always feel bad. Like, that's a hard conversation.
It is a hard conversation.
Because they often are very proud, and that it was a good investment for them, but it is not adding value to their home for whatever reason. And we have to be fair or bad news on that. Another one is smart windows. You can put in windows now that are remote control operated, right? So, the blinds are operated by smart technology, the windows. If it rains, by the way, you don't have to have a remote. It senses that it's raining and the window's closed. Well, I don't know about you guys, I don't open and close my windows that much. Right? I'm not going to spend money on something that detects whether it's raining or not and opens and closes by itself. But if I was challenged, mobility challenged or strength challenged, that might be a feature I would be interested in if I open and close my windows a lot.
But a buyer is not going to spend more money on your house because you spent more money on your windows. And that is the definition of a sunk cost.
Right. And so, recommendation on windows, if you need new doors and windows, get them. But don't buy the most expensive ones that are available on the market, because at the end of the day, just because you spent that much on them doesn't mean the buyer cares. What do they want to know about a window?
Can you get out if there's a fire?
Can you get out of the fire? That's an inspection requirement. Also, can you see through it?
Yes.
And does it insulate you from the weather, right? And could I open it if I wanted to get some fresh air back in, right? They don't really care that they're Anderson windows or Pella windows or anybody else. Just because you paid $42,000 for windows you could have paid $10,000 for, doesn't mean the buyer will pay you the additional $22,000.
And if you need to replace something at your house and you want to know, is this something that I should spend extra money on? Is that going to be appealing? Call me or Shannon. Just call us because we'll shoot you straight and say, oh, yep, that would be super smart. That is a smart investment in your home. Or we might say, I wouldn't do that if you're wanting to get the money back. If you're wanting to enjoy it for yourself,
Go for it.
knock yourself out. But
Elevators.
oh my stars. Yeah.
You can put an elevator in instead of one of those chair lifts. In many cases, we looked at our condo. We have a 2-story townhome, and there is a space, a platform that goes down into our dining area. And if we wanted to, we could put an elevator in that condo rather than a chair lift. Does that make financial sense? In most cases, probably not for us. Now, if we never were going to move out of that place, and that's where we were going to be, and one of us had a mobility issue that required us to have a way up and down those stairs, then certainly you could do that. It is a major renovation.
It is a major renovation. And we've looked at houses that have them, and there are some neighborhoods in Oklahoma City that are, that they've chosen to do that, but it's not going to sell. The house is not going to sell for more because they have an elevator.
And guess what? Have you ever been in an old office building and gotten into an old elevator?
I have.
It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And that elevator that is new today, in 15 years will not be new, in 5 years won't. And it's got to be maintenance. And that's what people don't think about is, okay, you have this elevator that today is fancy, it's great, but guess what? After some use and after some time, it's going to require probably to be taken out and remodeled back to what it was previously, which again is another cost. Okay, so let's keep going. And the last one I have on that list was safe rooms, walk-in safe room.
Yeah, I love a safe room.
Yeah.
I do love a safe room. And we'll talk about building in a minute. And it's very easy to turn your master closet into a safe room if you're building. You do it during the building process. Safe room in the garage is pretty easy. There's some.
What's the downside to the safe room in the garage? The walk-in safe room?
Well, it obstructs parking, so you lose your parking, and that has been a problem in several neighborhoods because it turns into, what is it, Shannon?
It depends on the layout.
Yeah, it does, because there are some that it does not impede on the parking. But if you're going to lose a space of parking, that is something to consider.
Well, my thing is you can either lose space of parking and get blown away by a tornado and have to worry about that, or you can get the safe room, be safe, and then if the buyer doesn't want that safe room, you know what can happen? It could be moved out.
Yeah, it can be moved out.
Right.
I've seen some really nice ones in the backyard too.
Yeah.
Those Oz rooms are
Have
really
you watched both the tornado, what's the movie?
Crystal.
Twisters.
Yes.
I don't think that safe room outside is gonna help at one iota. If that stupid tornado can pick up cattle and spin them around in the air, I don't think it's gonna help me at all.
That was cinematic magic, but I've seen some that look pretty safe.
Right, okay, yeah. All right, okay. So I want to talk about, with Becky here, and we're going to bring somebody up to visit with us. David, come on up. We have a guest today with us that he was an education partner with us early on when we very first started the Senior Living Drew series. And he got too busy to be here every month, but we're so glad he's back to be a guest speaker. David Lee with Centennial Mortgage. Let's give him a hand. And we're talking about building or buying. And the first question people usually have is, how am I going to pay for that?
Yeah.
So David, what do you tell them when they come and they sit in front of you and they ask, how can I pay for that? And let's assume that they're 62 years old or older.
Okay.
Hold that mic up close for me.
Okay. First of all cash. If you're selling a home or you've got investments or whatever, your whole purpose is to go buy another home and pay cash, you're probably not calling me anyway, right? Okay? However, if you don't have the cash, next option is a regular mortgage. That is, you put a certain amount down, you carry a mortgage for a certain amount, whatever you're comfortable with or is allowed.
Or the maximum amount that I can afford to pay a payment for.
Correct.
Yes, all the way up. Yeah.
And then you make monthly payments, and hopefully try to pay it off early. I see a lot of times seniors are, buying their next home and they
Oh,
put
that-
it out on the, put it in a 30-year mortgage or something like that, and hope they pay it off early, which doesn't always happen. But that's an option, just a regular mortgage. You may even put a huge amount down, just have a very small mortgage, and then pay that out as quick as you can as well. However, there's another option, and that is a home equity conversion mortgage. And that is commonly known as a reverse mortgage. So before the eyes glaze over, before I'm just gonna give you a couple of ideas or options about that. The reverse mortgage has been around since the Reagan administration, so it's been around for a long time. It's had a lot of bad press and a lot of good press. One of the biggest myths that has been around that whole time is that I'm making a mortgage on my home, and when I die, the government or the mortgage company gets my house. That is not true. It's never been true.
And they don't want your house.
And they don't want your house. Exactly right. You retain ownership through the whole process of a loan. And when you pass away or the last person passes away, that home goes to your heirs, whoever your heirs are. They just need to do the same thing they would need to do if you had a regular mortgage, and that is either pay off the mortgage to keep the house, or sell the home, pay off what's owed, and then they keep the difference in equity. So that's an option that a lot of people don't know that you can do with purchasing a home. Most of the time, the reverse mortgage is there to help people stay in their home and age in place, and that is definitely an option. The thing I would like to point out is for you to look at it in this respect. The reverse mortgage is a lifetime line of credit that you have on the home without ever having to refinance it. And you retain ownership during that whole time. And so it's a lifetime line of credit. You can draw from that line of credit. You can pay on it to drop the balance if you want, but you don't have to.
So David, to that end, having interviewed you many times in the past, some people use the reverse mortgage as a retirement investment tool,
Correct.
right? Because they can use that money for whatever they want to.
Correct.
And so, so just a quick question. By the way, David's going to be here to answer questions at the end if you want to talk with him about your personal situation. So David, what does it look like if someone says, I don't really understand this reverse mortgage thing, and I'm curious about it, to meet with somebody like yourself? Even, do they have to have a house? Do they have to plan to buy a house, or they have to plan to take out a loan to meet with you, or can they just talk with you about their options down the road?
I'm more than willing to sit down with you, talk to you about all your options, and just look and see how it works for you, doesn't work for you, whether you intend to buy or don't intend to buy, whether you want to stay in place or whatever you're wanting to know. I'll be glad to.
Yeah, and you're not going to try to sell them on one or the other. You're really looking at which one of these options fits your scenario, right?
Yeah.
We had such a good conversation prior to this, and I learned a lot. I actually didn't know that you could purchase a home with a reverse mortgage, so that was really interesting. I just haven't run into that. But you told me a story about someone who sold their home in California and made some just, can you tell them that? Because I found that to be really interesting.
So I had a gentleman, he was 65 years old, give me a call. He was living in California. And he said, I'm going to sell my home and I'm moving to Edmond. And I've already done some research and I want to get a reverse mortgage. Can you help? Sure. So he has a home in California that's worth $600,000. Not that great of a home at the time in California, right?
That's a teardown,
Nice.
California.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. But he has 2 kids that live in Edmond. Both kids, grown adults and grandkids, fairly affluent. They don't need his money. They don't need his house. Okay? So he sells his home, takes the $600,000 in cash that he has, moves to Edmond, and he buys a $600,000 home in Edmond. Nice home, much nicer than what he had, right? Close to the grandkids, close to the house, to the kids and grandkids. On the reverse mortgage, it lends roughly 50% of the value of the home, is all it does. That's just how it's set up. It's based on age. So he takes $300,000 of that $600,000 that he has in cash. He puts $300,000 down on the new home. So he's living in a $600,000 home. He put $300,000 in it. For the rest of his life that he's there, he never has a payment to pay. Takes the other $300,000 in cash, goes out and buys 2 $1 million life insurance policies, naming the 2 kids as the recipients of that, the insured, so that when he passes away, they both have in excess of $1 million worth of life insurance. And he still has his home. The kids are taken care of. He lives there the rest of his life.
Yeah.
His other option, he could have taken $300,000 or $300,000 home, or he could have bought the $600,000 pay cash.
Mhm.
Which one made more financial liability for him? What's best for him and his family is how he made the decision.
I love that. Thank you, David. Can we give David a hand? David, at the table right back here, as you're walking out, be sure to stop by and introduce yourself to him. Even if you don't want to talk to him now, you need to know him. He's our local reverse mortgage expert. There are lots of people out there that do reverse mortgages, guys, they say they do. David's been doing this for how many years?
20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Just the reverse.
Just the
And you've been doing mortgages longer than that.
The other mortgage is close to 45.
Yeah, close to 45 years. And he started in high school. So David, I appreciate you. And what I love most about David is I know that he's going to be honest. And that's really what's key. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the whole idea behind the Truth Series, right, is to give people options.
Yeah.
And vetted professionals that we know when we send them to those people that we know they're going to do right by them.
Yeah.
And that's the real key there. When we started this, I think we're going into the 11th year of the Truth Series.
I think it's great.
11th year next year, we're going to be doing this. And we've met some really cool people along the way.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk about building, and I have a special guest here that I'm going to bring up as well. But before I do, let me just point out on your little handout again, right, where you've got the choices that you're making there. Those choices, the next choice that's not, that's really, I think, important for people is this one, is that if you're going to buy a house versus rent one, and you're gonna choose to build, you've got to choose a builder, so there's a 4th choice there, and that's gonna come up in this conversation too. But this choice is really, basically, are you gonna buy a pre-owned house, or a new house that was built by a builder that's kind of already built the way that they build it, and you're just making a few decorative selections, or are you gonna custom build a home? And I know somebody who's done this a few times. So Eddie, come on up here. Let's give Eddie Sisson, our good friend, a hand. Eddie, I'm gonna have you right here in front of me so I can kick you if you get too far out of line, right? Right. So Eddie was kind enough, a few years back when I was doing research on accessibility to tell me about the home he and his wife, late wife Kathy, built years ago, 9 years ago? 20 years ago. The first one, yeah. 9 years ago, the current one is the one I saw. And I was blown away at how much thought they put into this home and for accessibility purposes. So I asked Eddie if he would share some wisdom here with the group for people who are thinking about building a home. And so Eddie, hold that mic close. Tell them how many houses you built either as a builder or a homeowner first.
Up front,
It is. You just gotta hold it close.
about a half a dozen, I guess, not many. Built, first house, it was a 5-unit complex for senior adults in 1982. Then in 2004, we built a house, and that was nice, living the dream where you come up through the hills. That was my life, you know. Now, that didn't take it to the big house that was on there. But the one before that, you know, got there and lived and had a bunch of handicap accessible things in that house as well. But then you get older and you get tired, and what was fun isn't fun. And so started downsizing, and that's where we came to this house that Nikki's talking about that we built 9 years ago. Johnston Builders is the people that built it, not necessarily putting a plug in for them, but that's who did it. And they just built in this addition that we're in, and they have several additions around town. But if you talk to them and get their attention, you can get it designed the way you want it to start with. And so there's a few things that we did and that you should consider, and that's some of the stuff that we did, we tried to do so that it will fit in the vanilla range.
So tell them about Kathy's condition and why you did it. I think that's important for you to hear.
Okay, she was in a scooter. She could get around the house. But, you know, if we went out and did anything, scooter and then electric wheelchair. And so we just wanted to have a place where she could do that. We moved over here too. It's closer to the hospitals. I was thinking there, so I thought, well, let's just get there, you know.
So that's good, great, yeah. So I just wanted them to understand why you did the things you're getting ready to point out that were important to you guys. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the reason why. And we've been scooter literate for 20 years at that point because it was kind of a decline over a period of years.
Scooter literate. That's a new word. I like that. Scooter literate. Michael, you're scooter literate, aren't you?
Yeah.
In fact.
I better PhD. Okay, so the number one thing, if you're building, now if you're remodeling, you know, it's a little different story. But if you're building, don't put any steps in the house. And when I say no steps, I mean no steps. Anywhere. You don't have to. Don't let any builder in the city tell you that you can't. No, you can't. Okay, so just stick by your guns. There's not one coming in out of the garage. Well, it's on there, 4-inch step. Well, that's the one I fell off. Don't put any steps in the house, out the back door, out the side door, anywhere. Okay, so then another thing that's kind of vanilla is 3-foot doors. And when you get it built, they can build that, and you come in through a 3-foot door, you come in through a 3-foot door out of the garage, you go out a 3-foot door in the house, all the others are 3 foot. I've never had anybody come in the house and say, wow, these are the wide doors. So also,
Except for realtors, maybe. We kind of like that. We notice.
they do. But she also noticed how cluttered my little stand was by the chair. But anyway, so wide doors, hall, just have one hall, and it was wide. And we put a little bend in it at the end of it, or cut the wall at a 45. I was a funeral director for about 30 years, and so we would go in homes. So I've seen all these homes. And Grandpa passed away, so we go there, and where he was, down in the back bedroom there. We'll just go back there and take the cot back there and take him up. Well, you can't do that. So anyway, it's too tight, you know, can't make the corner and stuff. So that's where we learned and saw a bunch of houses and things not to do when you're building. And another thing is on the grab bars, I have grab bars, and the grab bars are chrome or shiny aluminum or whatever it is. What's the name for those?
Brushed nickel.
Okay, there you go, brushed nickel. So we got brushed nickel, other stuff too, so it just matches and blends right in. I don't know about y'all, but the older I get, I don't see too many young people in here. But,
We don't let them in.
yes, I've got some friends that I see occasionally and everything, and I go to their house and boy, it's a long way down to the commode. My goodness, you know, so I don't put my commodes in there, you know. Then on
Now, wait a minute, you're not talking about the distance to the commode, you're talking about the distance to the commode. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, there we go, just to be clear.
So the floors. Okay, there's vinyl, there's wood, there's tile, and that's all good, and you can get around good in it. If you do, I'm not saying to recommend this, but we wanted some carpet. And so if you're going to do carpet, do low pile carpet and have a thin pad underneath it. Don't get the big bus stuff because it's hard to get around it. Do y'all have carpet in your house, or do you use tile and plywood? Okay. Then safe room.
That's okay.
Uh,
You're not dismissed. All right, keep going.
So we did a safe room, and it also has a wide door. And we fixed it where that Kathy could come out the door of the house, around the car. And we, of course, when you design the garage to start with, it's not going to take up the space. So if you design these things to start with, so just go to your builder when you're building, get the plans laid out first. You're going to have to lay the plans out, so it doesn't cost any more to lay the plans out the way you want it. And then when you're building, then it doesn't really cost very minuscule, if it's any more, to build the doors wider and several other things that you got.
So Eddie, just to touch on that, it doesn't really cost that much more, and it doesn't really require that much more to do. But when builders aren't used to doing it, what is the caveat there?
Well, the caveat is you get a little step and you get some narrow doors. And then it costs you out the dickens to correct it.
So you have to stay on top of them and make sure.
Okay, another thing is when y'all all get around, particularly if you're gonna be building a house and have cars and everything, watch what they're doing. So another thing, grab bars. If you're gonna put grab bars in to start with, they can be sure that you have wood studs or cross members in there, like 2x8 to 2x10s in between your 2x4s. And so I would go and ask them to put them something that didn't get them in there. I just put them in there after they leave. So, it doesn't take much for a nail and a hammer. And so get it there for when you get an old fat boy a hold of that grab bar, it ain't gonna come loose, So that's what we tried to do.
It terrifies me to go into a new construction house and see that they put grab bars in without being able to see behind that sheetrock and to know if that sucker is actually secured or not.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Grab it, pull it down the wall, and then I'll have to.
Just hang on it, Nikki, just hang on it.
Right, it's the realtor and builder law is that if we break it, we buy it. And that's the problem, so keep going. You got a couple more tips I know you haven't shared yet. I want you to talk about the pantry and the hot water thing above the oven.
Okay, so in the pantry, once again, it's got a 3-foot door, and it's where you can go in and it's big enough to turn around in and stuff, so that way you can actually, the water for the stove is, we tried to fix it, she kind of sat down on a little stool in the middle of the kitchen, called her the director. And so she could get to that and pretty much got to the stove and to the sink and stuff. But, you know, getting water, you're gonna fill a pan, you know, or a pot full of water. It was hard getting it over to the stove, so we just fixed it where you got a little water spout and you can just fill your stuff up right there, so,
Those are the things you can do when you build,
yes.
very easily compared to after the fact.
What else?
Well, let me look, hang on, I have a list, if there's anything else you can think of. You later added sidewalk around the outside of the house, we'll talk about that.
Okay, the house faces south, and so the north side of your house, doesn't get sun, and so the grass doesn't grow very well, so you've got to put fescue or something, or create it, and then, I got tired of that big place of mowing the yard, so now the homeowner association mows the yard and stuff. But I just decided to start to get mud against the house and all of that. If I wanted to get out the back in case there was a fire, you know, I could get out the back or the front, have 3 exits that way. There's a garage too, so we put the sidewalk around, so we can just take and scooter, go around the house, out the gate, and down the front, out the garage, anywhere you want to go. And once the house is built and you've got it that way, it's gonna be that way a long time.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So any advice about working with builders if someone's gonna go out and tackle building a custom build?
Yes, just talk to them up front, tell them what you want. And I have them, ask them if they're going to do this. Get a commitment out of them, out of front. If they don't want to do it, they start giving you all the reasons why they say you won't allow that. Well, don't, that's not true. This is the truth series. That's the reason I've been coming 10 out of the 11 years, okay? So they'll tell you the truth. You can do it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do it.
Fantastic. All right, can we give Eddie a
I would really like for you to know that there are some neighborhoods that you can build in that all of the houses in those neighborhoods are that they are building all of the houses in those neighborhoods with grab bars and things. And so those builders, they know because they know they are zero entry, no steps. All of the doors are that wide. Grab bars are normal and they know how to do that. So I would say also, just know that it is out there. And then my other caution with building is be really, really particular about your contract because those builder contracts are written to protect who? The builder. So be very particular about those contracts and make sure that they are putting in writing the commitment that you are wanting them to have.
So I have a fun story. Not a fun story, a real story. But Chris and I, early on, when we first started specializing in helping people downsize and the 55 and older market, there was a neighborhood being built. You guys are probably familiar with it by now, Jefferson's Garden, out off 155th and Penn, just north of Edwardsville, about half a mile. And it was a great little community, brand new. They had assisted living there, and they were building these little patio homes on the front of the development. And there were a lot of investors built them, and they were leasing them out. And some people bought in there, some people built in there. Same builder. It was Barry Switzer's son in law, I believe, was doing it. Anyway, we got involved with them, and they were building a custom home. I say custom, semi-custom is probably a better way to put it, for a lady that we were working with on selling her home. And she had it, they did the plans, they did everything. The lot was on a corner, and it was on let's say it was gonna basically be facing west, but the porch was kind of facing north, so it was on a corner. And she went out one day and they had poured the slab, and she's looking at it, and it just, something didn't seem right, and they started framing it up, and guess what? They had poured the slab the wrong direction. So instead of facing north, it was facing south. And so it was gonna face right into another house and not face where she thought it was gonna face, and she chose that lot very specifically for where it was gonna face. Well, she had this contract with this builder. Now, she had every reason to get out of this contract. She could have said, I'm not buying this house. Well, guess what? What'd that mean? She had to figure out what she was gonna buy or not buy, or build or not build. And so she really struggled with the decision. She ended up buying that home, and it was flipped. And so, by the way, from an aesthetic standpoint, when you drove down this street, the front of that house was gonna be beautiful with windows and everything. Guess what? It was the back of the house now,
That's wild.
with one little window for the bathroom up here. So when you drove down the street, you saw all these beautiful houses, and then you saw the back of this house. It was the most ridiculous thing that developer, and of course, they weren't gonna pull up that slab and start over.
I don't know. I think I would have made them.
You can't make them.
Man,
You can't make them. They bust the contract before they will do it.
crazy.
Because you know how much earnest money the person had to put up for that? $500.
Oh.
You know, it's ridiculous. So I'm just saying, guys, if you're working with a builder, like Eddie said, you have got to stay on top of it. And that's why I'm gonna just put a plug in for real estate agents right here, because when you go to a builder, here's what I used to see all the time. People would go to a builder, and the builder would say, you don't need an agent because we have an agent, but you can just use our agent. Well, first of all, they don't want to pay another agent. That's why they don't want you to use another agent. Secondly, they don't want you to use another agent because that agent works for you. And they don't want somebody else meddling in their affairs, because if they screw up and your agent notices, guess what they're gonna have to do? They're gonna fix it, whereas their agent is probably not representing you. Well, not probably, they're definitely not representing you, they're representing the builder. If there's an agent at all. So if you're custom building, there's no agent. You have no agent unless you hire one. Now, if you hire a real estate agent who really doesn't understand construction, then guess what? You're in the same boat you would be in as if you hired anybody else to build your home. So I highly recommend, if you're going to build a house and you are not somebody who has built homes before, you need somebody on your side to be going out and looking at that property and inspecting it regularly. If you told them you wanted grab bar, reinforcements in the wall, and you go out there and they're getting ready to put sheetrock up in that bathroom and there's no grab bar reinforcements, you have to basically say to the construction superintendent, stop. And they go, well, we've got a crew here today, we've got to sheetrock this house. And you're gonna say, yeah, but that needs to have a reinforcement. And they're gonna go, no hablo, no English, because the superintendent doesn't want to have to stop what he's doing. And that's not meant to be a discriminatory thing, that's just the reality of what these crews. So then you have to get the builder involved, and the builder has to come out there and go, oh yeah, that has to have restraint. You know how many days that might take?
Yeah.
So better to have somebody paying attention to that stuff.
I think also if you're the type of person that's not very confrontational, it's really, seriously,
That's exactly
it's
right.
really good for you to have somebody to pick up the phone and say,
Yeah.
hey, listen, this
Yeah.
wasn't right, and I don't want to tell the person that it wasn't right.
Yeah.
Then it's the agent's job to come in and be like, do it right. But I will say, so if you're going to build, then definitely look at maybe one of the communities that can, that all of the houses are like that, because you're going to get less pushback on things like grab bars and things like that, because all of the houses in that neighborhood have that. If you're going to buy existing, you can still look in neighborhoods like that. I would say if you're going to buy existing, try not to buy something that you're going to then have to retrofit, because what a lot of people don't think about with the retrofitting is the cost of demo. Demo is sometimes more expensive than actually doing it, at the construction stage. We renovated our kitchen a few years ago, and we had to pay someone to tear a bunch of stuff out, and then we paid them to come in, and of course they found things that we didn't know about, and we had to change, and all of that. So
And working with the construction people who do remodels isn't easy either sometimes.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
We had, and where you live makes a difference too. My aunt and uncle mentioned earlier that they had sunken floors. When he had his last health scare, I recommended that they have their bathroom redone with a walk-in shower rather, because all they had was tubs, and you couldn't get in and out of the tub. So they started that project, and Chris, how many months did that end up taking? 10?
8, 9,
Eight?
10.
Yeah, it's wild.
From start to finish, I want to say it was 10 months, roughly, give or take. They lived about 50 miles west of the metro. They chose their own contractor because he was nearby.
Mhm.
What those guys do a lot of times is they'll take a job, they'll contract with you on the job, and then they'll take another job, and they're working both jobs, and they're gonna put you on hold while they're working on these people's job, and then they're gonna take another job, and they're putting these, so they're trying to juggle crews and, things being ordered and delivered and all these things, right? There was a time where they were a whole month with nobody in their house doing anything,
Mhm.
with their bathroom torn out and plastic hanging everywhere.
Mhm.
Now, keep in mind, while that bathroom is being torn out, they only have one other bathroom,
Mhm.
and he can barely get in and out of it.
Mhm.
So for 10 months, I was scared to death I was gonna get a phone call in the middle of the night that he had fallen in the shower, and she couldn't get him up out of the shower, right? Secondly, let me just add one more thing, and then this is a soapbox, I could go way down on this. The other thing, this was a rural contractor, somebody that they knew who had done work for them before, and they had zero paperwork. Zero contract, zero paperwork, zero instructions written down. He was paid by the hour. 10 months, by the hour. I did not ask them what the final bill was, I'm too scared. But he took liberties that he could not have taken had they had a contract. He decided they needed new doors in the hallway to match the bathroom he was remodeling. He decided they needed tile in the bedroom next to the bathroom he was remodeling. He decided to take out the commode and get a new one, even though they told him they wanted to use the other one. They took out a mirror that she didn't want to take out. So he took liberties, and she and he, basically what happens is now you fire this contractor in the middle of a job. You know how hard it is to get a new contractor to come in and pick up where an old contractor left off, right? Lots of issues with that, and in the meantime, again, you're in rural Oklahoma, there aren't that many contractors. So in Oklahoma City, you can pick and choose, but contractors still have a tendency to start jobs and stop jobs. So get a recommendation
Yeah.
from somebody who uses contractors regularly.
Yeah, guys, I will say that when you're in a situation where you have resources to ask questions to, just ask questions. I mean, my best friend's grandparents had somebody that they saw commercial on TV. They came out, hired them to do some stuff for them, and when she saw that bill, she was appalled. And her grandparents live in a very, very nice house, and they present themselves very well, and I guarantee you that that person walked up to the door and made an assumption about them and billed them as such. So I just will say, just ask the question, because we're here. So just ask the question. Happy, yeah, that's it.
I have a quick tip for you, anybody in the room that has veteran benefits. Found out yesterday from a friend that they applied for a grant for, the couple owns a house. The gentleman has veterans benefits. I think he's 80% disabled. He now has dementia and some mobility challenges. They got a $6,000 grant from applying through the VA to remodel the bathroom and convert the bathtub into a shower.
That's great.
Now, I don't know if that will cover the whole cost, but $6,000 is a pretty decent start if it doesn't cover the whole cost. So you might check into that either through Dale Graham's group or through the VA directly, or whoever your VA contact is if you don't have one. We have.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Good. You want to do some Q&A? Okay, so for Q&A, Amy's got the microphone. As a reminder, this is for questions. So if you have a question, we would love to answer that question. If you have a comment or a story, I would like to hear it after we wrap up for the day. Come and find me, because I'd like to hear your comment. Okay?
Fantastic. And if you do have questions about reverse mortgage, I would ask that you go and speak with David back at his table afterward, because Becky and I are not reverse mortgage experts. And so you don't want us fielding those questions. All right. Fantastic. Anybody have one?
On the chart where you had the 1, 2, 3, it talked about what your options were a pre-owned home, a spec home, or a custom home as far as building. And, you know, I saw recently where the number of homes that are on the market are being pulled off at the highest rate in like 8 years. My question is, does that, what would be the cost consideration if we were looking at those three options? Or when is it going to be cost effective to build?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So it's always going to be more expensive to build. I mean, it just is. It's more expensive to build. And I think that's going to always be the case. As far as the inventory question, yes, we are seeing a lot of houses come off the market. But what that needs to be balanced with is we are seeing record numbers of homes on the market. So my team, I do a weekly, I run numbers weekly. So if you ever have a question about the market, call me, I'll send you my most recent, because I do it every single Monday. But my team is tired of hearing me talk about it. We've never seen this many houses on the market in Oklahoma City, and our buyer pool has not changed. So you have lots of choices, and right now, building is not bad because those builders, you have to think, if you're negotiating with a builder versus a person who's selling their home, the builder, that's a company. They've got a budget, they've got a profit line, all of those things. So when you talk to them, we're seeing builders giving lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of promos right now because there's so much inventory on the market. I mean, we sold, Corey's not here today, but Corey helped somebody buy a new construction home, and I think we got something like $65,000 off of it because it was,
They want it gone.
they wanted it gone.
So you have to also balance selling your own home. So if you're
That's true.
selling a house and buying a house or building a house, you've got what is the market doing to people who are selling an existing house, and what is the market for people buying a house? So those things can't really be discussed in generalities because it's so unique and different for each individual, but you have to ask yourself, does it make more sense, timing-wise, to sell my house now and get maximum value out of it before the market shifts further into a buyer's market? Or am I gonna benefit more by getting a better value on the house I'm buying by waiting a little longer, and maybe not as high a value for the house I'm selling? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I tell people all the time, you're buying a house in the same market you're selling one in. So I mean, it's definitely it is leaning towards a buyer's market
You
right
have
now.
to do math.
You have to
You
math.
have to do
You have to math. But I think a direct answer to your question, because inventory is so high right now, builders are very motivated to sell, and so we're seeing you get a lot of deals on the back end. We have another one.
Okay, my question is, I have friends that live like at Belmont Cove out in Yukon, and I love that setup. That'd be perfect for me. But do they have anything like that in the area, Oklahoma City area, that you can buy instead of rent?
What do you like about Belmont Cove?
I like that it's great for one or two people. There's no steps or.
Then yes, there are lots of neighborhoods throughout Oklahoma City that have homes for sale that are the similar concept in that aspect. Yeah.
So here's,
She likes the townhome duplex two size, is what she's
Yeah.
saying.
well, and I will tell you guys, in those neighborhoods, like what she's describing, that are perfect for retirees or single people or, small families or couples, here's the thing. Those oftentimes never even hit the market before they're sold. In our neighborhood, we live in Sutton Place condos. Those never even hit the market. They will sell to somebody who knows somebody before they ever see a realtor, okay? So if you're thinking, gosh, I wanna live in this neighborhood and I don't ever see anything available, you've gotta connect with an agent who can connect with that community's decision makers out there. So if Shannon is working with you or Corey and they say, you wanna buy a house in Sutton Place, they're gonna go to our neighborhood association and they're gonna find out who knows what. And they're gonna find out, hey, if there's a house coming available in here, I wanna know about it first. And they're gonna connect you first, ideally, if they don't already have a buyer for it, okay? So in those neighborhoods, that's really important. If they're huge developments, huge neighborhoods, with lots of turnover, and that's not the case, then your agent is just gonna basically let you know when that comes on the market. But just know that, guys, the more the baby boomer generation starts downsizing, guess what's gonna happen? The less inventory we have. And so those houses, not only are they gonna be few and far between, when it comes available, it's gonna go like that. So it doesn't mean you have to buy it like that. It just means you need to know what you want And you need to be prepared when you find the right one, that you got all your ducks in a row and you're ready to do it. Make sense?
Amy, do you have another one? Any other questions? Shannon?
You said builders have incentives or they have a budget. What are those incentives? What does that look like?
That's a really good question. So builders, and let me first start by saying that builders are their own competition. So when you're buying a house from someone who owns it, they don't really care what happens in their neighborhood in 6 months because they've sold their house and they've moved on. True? If you buy a house from a builder, they do care how much you buy that house for because it's going to affect what they sell a home to the next buyer for. So the best way to work with a builder that we have found is incentives. And that means they want people to see that because it becomes public record after you buy a house, it becomes public record what your home sells for. So they want people to see the house is sold for this much because they want to sell the next house for that much. So then we build things on underneath of it to get you your value. If you buy cash, they'll give you a cash rebate. I've had people do a cash rebate because on cash, there's not a rule against it. That's mortgage fraud when you get a mortgage. So we can't do that. But we can do blinds, we can do storm shelters, we can do upgrades within the house. We can,
Countertop
fencing.
upgrades,
Yeah,
landscaping,
landscaping. If it's on a little bit extra land, maybe some extra sod.
closing costs.
Closing costs, definitely. So all of those little dollars will build in and make sure that you're getting a really good deal on what you're purchasing. Again, if it's cash, you get a rebate.
But you have to know you can negotiate those, or else they'll sell you that house at that price,
sure.
and they're happy to not give you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always tell people when we're working with, I just told somebody this last week, actually. I said, listen, whatever incentive they tell you that they'll give you, I can get you more. So, anyway, whatever they're willing to say they're going to give you, there's definitely some
And
cushion.
you guys, some of this is just, we don't know what we don't know. The first
Yeah,
4 or 5 cars I bought from a dealership, they loved me. Man, they could not wait to see me coming in and buy a new car. You know why? Because I was in ignorance. Like, they were selling me the car for sticker price, and I didn't know any better. And so they loved me. Once I figured out that I was being taken for a ride, I became really good at asking more questions about what I could get for that price or how much less I could get for that car. Houses are the same way.
Yeah.
But it depends on the market.
Depends on the market because, we all, economics 101, right? Supply versus demand directly affect the price.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a lot of supply and really a normal amount of demand, not very much different than what we've seen in the past. So,
Let's put a plug in for Arvest too, real quick.
well, actually, what I wanted to do, since it's the last month of the year, is to recognize all of our education partners. We can definitely start with Arvest, but let's recognize our education partners because, again, I like that you guys can come here for free. Do you guys like coming here for free? Yeah. All of our education partners are highly vetted and they should be a resource. You call me if you have a question about something, but you can also call any one of them if you have a question about something. So is it okay if we bring them up to the front? Okay. If you're an education partner, please come on up to the front. I do want, and walk fast because I don't want anybody to throw their paper at me, please, because we're getting close on time. But what I'd like is to recognize you guys, make sure that they see you. And Arvest, as Nikki was saying, would be a great call if you're looking to buy. They can do a mortgage for you.
And they will also help you with a budget. I was explaining to a couple of people before the meeting today that if you're not sure what you can afford, or you're not sure if you're gonna rent, how long your money will last, Curtis and his team, their wealth management team, has sat down with multiple people from our group and just said, okay, what do you have? What are you thinking you want to do? Let's look and see if that would work for you. And they do that at no cost, you guys. What an amazing.
Yeah, great. Okay, so
That's what a bank. You don't have to bank with them to do that. They would love for you to, but you don't have to.
So I'm just gonna so we've got Quail Ridge. You can Rhonda just wave as we get down. Quail Ridge, Nerve Renewal, Valor Hospice. We've got Spanish Cove. Y'all divided and conquered, or yeah, there you go. Spanish Cove is here. Arvest Bank, Ambassador Roofing, Seda Law Firm, Villages OKC, Navigating Medicare. We've got Oklahoma DHS, Concordia, Arvest again. We have Acclaim, and then of course Francis Tuttle and the Alzheimer's Association. Guys, can we give them a round of applause? Thank you so much. All right. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yes, I do. Seda Real Estate.
Oh, Seda Real Estate Group. Sorry. Yes. Okay, so tell your friends about January. Please, please, please join us. Sign up. Make sure that you fill out your feedback form for us. That is incredibly important. Oh, and what do I love for it to be on your feedback form? Tommy already knows. Your name. Please give us your name. If you ask me a question on your feedback form and you didn't put your name on there, I can't answer your question. So please either put your name tag on there or write it on there. Yes, ma'am.
Are we going to be receiving something in the mail that lists out the
Yes.
mayor's topics?
Yes. We had a couple of logos that we were waiting on. So we had wanted to get that full list out to you today. But we will get that in the mail to you, so you'll have the full list of dates, and they will be on our website very, very soon. We'll start working on that as soon as we close out today. And you have anything else?
Great.
All right. Make it a great day. Stay warm out there.